The following presentation is brought to you by the Realm Network.
What's up, everyone? This is Sharia. You can catch my Impact Wrestling reviews every week on the brand, and you don't want to miss them.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Beauty and the Beast show episode 17. We got the co-Celine, special guests. Would you like to please introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Guy Opatinsky.
Nice to meet you. And Sarah, how are you?
I'm doing well, thanks.
Oh, yeah, that question. You said, Sarah, how are you?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Well, Sarah's okay too, right?
Oh, yeah.
So our guest canceled, or like he didn't even like get back to me yesterday. He canceled the first time, and then he said something about like his hotel not having Wi-Fi or something.
So anyway, what kind of interest do you like?
Me?
What kind of like your favorite TV show and movies? What and your sports? Or what are your favorites?
TV show, movies, sports. Okay, well, sports is baseball for me. I'm a big Yankee fan.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as TV shows go, I'm trying to think what's the Better Call Saul maybe right now.
Yeah.
I like Baskets. You guys watch Baskets? The Zach Galifianakis show?
I've never heard of that.
It's
Why
really
would I watch
funny.
a show about baskets?
No, it's Zach Galifianakis' show about Baskets is his last name. He's a clown. It's really fun. Westwood. You guys watch Westwood at all?
No, I don't.
I know, but I heard good things about it.
It's a great show on HBO.
I don't watch anything.
You don't watch TV?
No, not really. I used to watch like reality shows.
Okay. I've done that too. Which reality shows?
Like Flavor of Love, that kind of stuff.
Oh, okay. So not like the Survivors and the Big Brothers of the world.
No, I only know that guy Fairplay from Survivor. And
yeah.
Randomly in a bar.
Really?
Yeah, how do you know him?
I interviewed him for my podcast back in 2009. That's the first time. He was actually really, really nice. I started up a podcast with my buddy in 2009 called Decently Funny. And Johnny Fairplay was the first person to really respond. And not only did he let us interview him, our first interview was actually Sam Simon, who was one of the creators of The Simpsons. But, you know, when we got the ball rolling, Johnny Fairplay was the first person to embrace it, and he invited us to a Survivor event. So it wasn't just interviewing him. We interviewed, 10 people from Survivor that day. That kind of, got the show going, essentially.
How did you get an interview with one of the creators of The Simpsons for your first episode?
So 2009, nobody's podcasting, right? And so we kind of got in early, and my co-host, Nuzzy, just contacted Sam on Facebook. And Sam said, yeah. And we actually met him in a restaurant, like a vegan restaurant in Santa Monica. And we did the show from there. And it was awful. It was so bad because it's so loud. And, you know, people are eating. And we thought we were going to do our show from a restaurant and, talk about what people are eating and, you know, why that food.
Do a podcast from a restaurant.
It's the worst idea ever. It was the worst idea. But what it did was, you know, it did give us our first interview. And then from there, we went on and interviewed 230-something people we interviewed, but Sam was our original, and he had us on a few times. He came on a few times. He actually invited us to his house and stuff for parties and all kinds of nice stuff. And he passed away, unfortunately, from multiple cancers last year. Yeah, but great dude, great for he's all into animal rights and all great kind of stuff. So he's missed. But yeah, that was our first dude.
Who was the second? Fairplay?
No, the second was a reality star. I think we actually did some. I know you guys talk about wrestling and stuff. We interviewed wrestlers early on. Iron Sheik, $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase, Bruno Sammartino. Was it Coco Beware? Right, the guy with the bird. Who else? I mean, so yeah. I mean, but yes, we did get our start. Doing like reality people and stuff like that too.
Like, what about wrestlers? Who else for wrestlers?
I'm trying to think of the other wrestlers we had. So Steve
Austin.
Oh, no, but what's the Honky Tonk Man? It was all like older wrestlers because we went to like Wizard World Comic Con and that's where they were all hanging out.
I want to get into Wizard World.
It's fun. You should definitely be going there. You should be going and signing pictures and gaining more fans. There's no question about it.
I'd wear my bikini there.
I mean, yes, you would get many new fans, I'm sure.
And also, do you have any favorite wrestlers?
I mean, for me, I'm not really into wrestling now. I kind of stopped in the last 20 years, maybe. So I'm like an old school wrestler guy. Like I dug, Superfly Jimmy Snuka, rest in peace, and that whole era of wrestlers was really when I was paying attention to it. The Big Boss Man and, Hacksaw Jim Duggan and those guys.
So do you have any favorite type of artist, musical artist?
Yeah, well, my favorite band is Pearl Jam. Mm-hmm. Big fan. I got to see them this summer twice at Wrigley Field on the field. Yeah.
I don't think I can name one song by them.
Really?
I just don't listen to that kind of music, I guess.
What do you listen to?
I like a lot of rap.
Okay.
I was doing a photo shoot. My friend's actually in the background. He's like making me laugh right now. I was actually doing a photo shoot, and and I was playing the same song over and over, and I guess he found it kind of funny. It's the song Black Beatles by Ray Shremmerd. I think that's how you pronounce his last name. Do you know that song?
I don't.
Okay. It's my new favorite song.
And is it pretty new? The song itself?
Yeah, it came out last year. It's
it
Ray and Gucci Mane.
Yeah, see, I'm an old dude. I mean, my rap stuff is like I'm like the older rap. Like I was into, Dr. Dre and I mean even before that, but really the '90s, Dr. Dre and that whole scene and stuff. So I do like rap music, but I'm also a white guy, so gotta listen to Pearl Jam. I'm sorry?
I like Tribe Called Quest.
Yeah.
A Tribe Called Quest. I heard a lot of things about that.
Yeah, they're a rap band from like the 90s.
Yeah.
Oh, Scott, tell them who your favorite actor is.
Will Ferrell and Michael Rappaport.
Really?
You like Michael Rappaport.
Really? Are you a fan of Howard Stern at all?
Yeah, sometimes he can be funny.
Okay. Do you listen? Have you listened to Rappaport on Stern? He's been on a lot, actually.
Oh yeah, I have it on iTunes today. He also puts it on YouTube.
Yeah. Okay, so you're a big fan. You listen to his podcast too.
Yeah.
Nice.
I listen to his podcast too.
How'd you guys get into Rappaport of all people?
I just got into him from movies and TV shows.
Okay. Have you tried to have him on the show?
No, but I want to.
Yeah, we actually have. We tried to get him on the show. We got his co-host from the podcast, Gerald Moody.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but we would love to have Rappaport on.
Have you reached out?
He's hilarious.
Yeah. Have you reached out to him?
Your show?
Nope, no Rappaport for our show. But I will tell you, you just made me think of something kind of funny and speak kind of in that whole, if you're a Stern fan, that whole world. When I first started the podcast, you were asking about like the early podcasts. We kind of had a thing going where my buddy would book the shows and then I would edit all of our podcasts and then, produce them and post them. And so we had this arrangement going. And after maybe 5 or 6 shows, he's like, man, you never book anybody. And I'm like, but I edit the shows. He's like, well, just once I would like to see you book somebody. So I said, okay. I called up a buddy. I said, why don't you come on the show? He says, cool. You know what? I do an improv thing. Why don't I have my whole improv troupe come and do your podcast? I said, that'd be awesome. So I called up Nuzzy. I said, hey, man, we got a show for this Saturday. It's this improv troupe. He says, bring them on. All right, cool. I'm going to cancel the guest that I have. I'm like,
Why
okay.
would you have them on? They're not famous.
Well, we were just trying to, I was just trying to book anybody at that point, right? Well, so we have these people on. It is the worst show ever, by the way. Don't book an improv troupe for a podcast. It's all visual. It was horrible. It was the worst show. And then when the show was done, my podcast host turned to me and he said, just so you know, the person I turned down this week was Robert Schimmel. And Robert Schimmel is a famous comedian, and he was on the Stern Show a million times, yada, yada, yada. I said, all right, well, let's just reschedule him. Okay. The very next week, Robert Schimmel died in a car accident.
Oh
So,
my God.
yeah. So that was my fault.
You fucked up.
I messed up just a little bit. That was probably the biggest, non-guest that we've had on the show. We've also, though, just like you guys, have issues with people just not showing up or canceling at the last second, that kind of thing. We had Andy Dick on a lot of times, but half the times
Every time my friend called Andy Dick because my friend had his number, and like he went along with the whole thing.
Andy is the nicest guy. I have Andy's number. As a matter of fact, if you guys, it's hard to book Andy, but might be able to help you book him if you're really interested. But we probably booked him on our show 10 times, and he was on 5 times. So that's the same issue that you're having here with Real Bull James, which is, they got to show up in order to have the show.
I tried to tweet Andy Dick before, and I tried to tell him, like, hey, I was that girl who prank called you, and he didn't respond.
Yeah, he's a really nice guy. Like right now, he's sober, so he's great. When Andy is not sober, he's maybe not as much fun and not as responsive.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought maybe he was, like, upset that I called him.
Probably not. He's actually, like I said, he's really nice. He's very laid back, and I don't think I've seen him angry at all.
Who would you like to interview?
Who would I like to interview? There are a few people. Like Mike Judge is a big one for me. He's the guy who created Beavis and Butthead and stuff. Yeah, I would love to have him on the show. I mean, Eddie Vedder, because I'm a huge Pearl Jam fan. That's a big one for me. And then Howard Stern. I mean, these are like, pie in the sky kind of things. Like we had some, I definitely interviewed some people on my old shows that like hit that thing for me where I'm like, wow, that's somebody I was on my interview bucket list, essentially.
Yeah. Have you ever interviewed Bob Saget before?
I have not interviewed Bob Saget, no, but he's hilarious too.
Yes.
Oh, you watched Fuller House, Scott?
Yeah.
I haven't seen it.
And Bob Saget is pretty filthy in real life.
He what?
You ever seen Bob Saget stand up? It's pretty filthy.
Yeah, he's
Actually,
raunchy.
I used to bartend at a comedy venue, and I think he performed there. We never got to watch any of the shows though. What's like your day job, guy?
So I'm a sales manager for a software company. I basically have worked in software for the last 12 years, and then on the side have done podcasts.
That's cool.
Yeah. Sometimes it's fun. Sometimes, sometimes they pay and sometimes they don't. But I do it for the love of broadcasting because it's something I really enjoy.
Did you ever do like radio? Like, how did you get into podcasting? Anyway?
Yes. So I went to school for communication and journalism, broadcast journalism. I went to Rutgers in Jersey. And then I did some amateur radio. I did radio in college. And then after college, me and my buddy who started the podcast, we did a show called Good Radio Gone Wrong on like a radio station that was so small as far as their signal goes that if you could listen on the internet, but if you didn't have internet, you could listen in the parking lot. It was a 50-watt radio station, and literally the signal didn't leave their parking lot. So we had no listeners, and that's really where we got our chops. That guy, Malcolm Gladwell, says you need 10,000 hours of practice before you get good at something. That was our 10,000 hours of practice, was on a radio station that literally nobody listened to. And then in 2009, one of our friends, her name is Sam Phillips, who's a Penthouse pet, and she has a show called The Single Life. She had started up a podcast station, and she knew that Nuzzy and I loved to broadcast. And so we sent in a demo tape to her and their whole team, and we get this email back. And Nuzzy's all excited. He contacts me. He's like, hey, man, we got a show. I was like, awesome. He's like, yeah, they say we're definitely funny. I'm like, oh, cool. And he sends me the email, and I start scrolling through the email, and I get to this one producer. His name is Randy Wang, and it says, yeah, they're decently funny. Let's give them a shot. And I went, wait. He didn't say we're definitely funny. He said we're decently funny. That is not a compliment. And Nuzzy's like, yeah, I guess not. And I said, you know what? Fuck. Oh, can I use foul language on this show?
Yeah,
I said, fuck them. Let's call the show Decently Funny. That will be a slap in the face to him, like, oh, you think we're only kind of funny? Well, fuck you. And that's the name of the show. And so we did. We named the show Decently Funny based on that. And then, of course, after that, people were like, oh, you guys are really funny. You shouldn't call yourselves that. But it was, it was all a big homage to being called Decently Funny in the first place.
So you knew Nuzzy back in college?
We've been friends since we were 12 years old.
Aww.
Yeah. We're two Jews, and we had our bar mitzvahs together, like at the same guy taught us how to do our bar mitzvah. So.
Biffles.
Exactly. So, but then, so we did the show. We did over 230 something shows, and then maybe like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, we gave it up because he had his second kid in 2 years, and so he just didn't have time to do the show anymore. And so I jumped ship. And he jumped ship, and I started a podcast called Failing Up, and that's what I've been doing since.
Yeah, I checked out that podcast.
Yeah, so Decently Funny obviously was a comedy show. It was, celebrity interviews. Let's put celebrities in quotes because sometimes we didn't always get the biggest celebrities, but fine. They were celebrities to somebody. But the idea behind Failing Up came really from something, well, a couple things, but the one big thing for me was something Conan O'Brien said, and he was on the Howard Stern show. Keep mentioning Howard, but he said, 25 of the worst things had to happen to me in order for me to get the Tonight Show. 25 of the worst things had to happen to my career in order for me to get the Tonight Show. And when me and my current co-host, her name is Eden, we're talking about that concept, she's like, yeah, it seems like you have to fail before you succeed. Like everybody has this story of like failing before they succeed. And so that's really what our show is about now, is about people who have experienced profound failures and then turn their lives around and then are now successful. So our first show was Andy Lassner. Andy is the executive producer of The Ellen Show, former heroin addict, alcoholic. I mean, he tells a story on our show about how he used to drink Listerine, like the yellow, nasty Listerine. He would drink it by the bottle to get drunk because he thought nobody would realize he was getting drunk if he was drinking mouthwash. And one day his wife turned to him and said, you stink. And he said, oh, what? She goes, alcohol. He goes, well, I didn't drink it. She goes, it's clearly Listerine. So that's kind of when he knew he had, well, one of the reasons he knew he had a problem. But anyway, Andy turned it all around and is now the executive producer of The Ellen Show. And so he was our first guest, and we kind of went from there, essentially.
So what's been like your biggest failure?
Ooh, that's a good question. I mean, in recent times, I was actually fired from my last job. It was the first time I was ever fired from a job in my life. And so in my mind, that was a failure. I mean, there was not a lot I could do about it. Like I had a boss who came aboard and just didn't like me. And when that happens, there's nothing you can do about it. So that was a huge failure. But I've moved on. I have a new job. Okay, all right. Congratulations to me. But yeah, for a while, that was probably like the big one. That's a big punch in the stomach. I don't know. Have you ever been fired from a job? Of course you haven't, Sarah. Never.
No, I never been fired.
I can tell you haven't been. Scott, have you been fired from a job?
I have one real job.
Long time ago.
For 2 years, and now I
Yeah.
do the modeling.
Yeah, in 1997 I was.
You were fired from a job. And, okay, what were the circumstances?
I dropped the cash register when I was being a cashier.
You dropped the whole
They
register.
fired you for that? Why'd they fire you?
Yeah, I got on the table.
Well, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Like you lost like the money or something?
No, I was just actually like dropped it on the table by accident. I got fired for that.
Oh.
Yeah.
I guess
That
cash
doesn't seem
registers
like
are
such a big
pricey.
deal.
What would you say?
I said that doesn't sound like such a big deal that you dropped the cash register.
Yeah, but I can't like I had a habit of like actually like slamming it on the table constantly.
Oh, you did that constantly?
Yeah, because I was kind of wild back then.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So what about you, Sarah? What's your biggest
Guys,
failure?
I don't know. I have like failures all the time.
But nothing sticks out
It's hard.
as a big one.
Huh?
I said nothing sticks out as a big one, like the biggest one.
Um, I don't know.
All right, we'll get back to it. You think about that. Maybe you come up with something. Scott, do you have one?
What? What?
Your biggest failure? Was it being fired for dropping the cash register?
I guess you could say that.
Okay.
Nothing worse happened?
No.
Oh, okay.
One
What
time I
job
called
was it?
911 to prank call them when I was in my teens.
You prank called 911?
Yeah,
And then what happened?
and I gave it to my cousin at the time when she was a little kid,
And then what did they say to you?
and they called and they told me never to call them again. Call them again.
Oh, that's good you didn't call them again.
Yeah.
Now, how'd you guys
Guy,
get together? How'd you meet?
911?
How do we
Have
meet?
we? Do you want to tell them?
Vince Russo introduced us.
Just
Yeah,
that
Vince
simple.
Russo. He used to help us co-host the podcast. He gave us this show, and so like first of all, I started out with like my own show, and then he met Scott. But like I was having trouble finding guests, and I thought it would help if I had a co-host. So he introduced me to Scott, and he actually named the show The Beauty and the Beast. I didn't come up with that name.
Yeah.
Scott, how do you feel about that? Do you feel okay with being called the Beast?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
How do you use the Beast though?
I mean, listen. No matter who gets to co-host with you, they're the Beast. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
And then how long have you guys been doing the show?
About a year now, right?
Yeah. Since
It's been almost a year. March.
since March 2016 and last year when we started.
And Scott, have you been booking most of the people, or is it Sarah who books the
Sarah.
people? Sarah does. Sarah, how are you doing it? Twitter? Facebook?
Yeah, I've been doing it through Twitter.
Okay.
Mostly Twitter.
Yeah, Facebook works too, believe it or not. It's always a good any way you can get in touch with people, any way.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I feel like most people like most celebrities are mostly on Twitter, aren't they?
I agree with you. We definitely had a few people get aboard just because of Facebook though. After that whole debacle with the improv troupe, I never try to book anybody again. But Nuzzy definitely booked people from Facebook and from Twitter, and I mean we had people like Mario Lopez was on the show and Henry Winkler and like some pretty big names.
Mario.
He was actually really, really nice too, Mario. Except that right before the show, he unfollowed me. He followed me on Twitter for about a week. And, I guess I get a little bit raunchy. And he unfollowed me right before our podcast. But I did not call him out on it. He was too nice. I was going to, but he was too nice.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I say some awful shit on Twitter, so people unfollow me. It's fine. I can live with that.
I don't even think you say anything that's like too awful.
Well, you'd be surprised. It happens. I mean, sometimes, go ahead, sorry.
Have you had like anyone who has been really rude to you on the show?
On the show? Yeah. I would say I'm so excited about it.
Johnny Fairplay?
No, Fairplay is actually nice. He's, Fairplay, the hard part about interviewing Fairplay, as you guys saw, is that he has his own agenda, right? And if you give him like a question that he's heard a million times, Fair Play will just tell you that he's heard it a million times instead of answering it. So that's difficult, but is not as difficult as definitely the hardest person I've ever interviewed, and I've done it twice. One time on Decently Funny and one time on Failing Up. And his name is Neil Brennan. You know who Neil Brennan is?
That name sounds familiar.
Neil Brennan is one of the creators of Chappelle Show, for one. He helped write Half Baked.
Show.
Yeah, and so you're like, oh yeah, you know, he's literally the co-creator. It's Dave Chappelle and this guy, and Neil Brennan. And so he came on, and I guess the first show we said something that insulted him, and it was our 100th episode. Okay, so before the show even started, he had a relationship with my co-host, Nuzzy. Nuzzy was selling podcast airtime for commercials. So he had sold a commercial.
He had a relationship with him? Like, he was, like, putting it in his butt?
Well, that might be so, but that part I don't know. All I know is that they had a business relationship where Nuzzy was putting commercials on Neil's podcast. And so it got to a point, I guess, where they weren't getting the
Wait, I thought Nuzzy was straight, though.
He is straight. He really wasn't having sex with Neil Brennan. He was just putting commercials in his podcast. And so at some point, I guess the sponsor canceled on Neil because they weren't getting enough hits. And so Neil came in, and before the show, they were talking about that sponsor, and Nuzzy just made a joke. He took a sound bite from Howard Stern, who Neil's supposedly a fan of, and he just went, "You blew it!" Which, if you listen to Howard, that happens all the time. Well, apparently Neil took that personally. So the first half of the interview, he's just combative with he doesn't want to answer questions. He's just really difficult. And so at some point, Nuzzy's like, "Did I do something to insult you?" And he said, "Yeah, actually you did. Before the show, you said this, and it was rude, and I didn't like it, and da-da-da-da," and it just made the whole show uncomfortable. Fine. Cut to 3 years later, I have him on my podcast on Failing Up, and I think I asked him a question. Oh, here's what I said. I said, look, it's Chappelle Show, right? It's not Chappelle Brennan Show. So, like, do you ever feel like the second fiddle, like, because people don't know your name, like, but you were a co-creator of the show? That was enough to, like, he was pissed at me based on that. And from there on out, like, it was just an uncomfortable show, and he was angry, and yeah. So he's just not.
Why didn't he just hang up then?
What's that?
Why didn't he just hang up?
Well, he was there. He was live both times. He couldn't. I mean, unless he walked out, he couldn't really. So instead, he just, chooses to be what I would call combative. So if anybody wants to listen, they're both available. Decently Funny with Neil Brennan and Failing Up are both on iTunes. If you want to hear an uncomfortable show, 2 different times. Now, at the same time, he's not the worst guest. The worst guests, and you guys will find this as you go along, are the ones that won't answer your questions, right? So you ask a question and they don't want to answer it. So I'll give you worst guess ever too, which is Corey Feldman. Because Corey does not want to talk about the Goonies. He doesn't want to talk about any of the movies he was in, as a matter of fact. He wants to talk about his music, and he wants to talk about his angels, which are girls who he dresses up in little costumes that he has as like I don't know what you want to call it, a gaggle of women, if you want to call it that.
Oh, I want to be part of that.
Listen, you're probably too hot to be a part of Corey's Angels, but you could be the top angel, I'm sure. So if you want, we can get in contact with Corey. But he is the most difficult interview ever. He just won't answer your questions. All he wants to talk about is his own agenda.
So I thought of something that, like, I kind of consider a failure.
Okay, good.
So, like, when I was 19, I had done, like, a Playboy test shoot with this guy who has gotten, like, a lot of girls as playmates. And he, like, reached out to me, like, 2 weeks later and told me that they said no thanks.
Oof. Did they say why?
No, they didn't even say why. I'm going to try again, though.
Were you devastated?
Yeah, I was pretty upset. I'm going to start crying now.
Oh, no.
It's like, no, I'm kidding.
But it really is a dream of yours.
Yeah.
But now they don't even have naked girls in Playboy anymore.
Well,
So,
they have it on the site Playboy Plus, and they have the other countries, Playboy Mexico, and
oh, really?
all the other. Yeah.
Okay, so what about this? If they said we want you to be in Playboy magazine, but be in a bikini, but you're not going to be naked in any of our stuff, does that hit your goal, or is it like, nope, still not what I wanted to do?
No, that hits my goal.
Okay.
I would do that. Yeah.
Okay. So it's not necessarily about being naked. It's just posing for Playboy.
Yeah.
I think you should do it.
Yeah, I know you think that.
Yes, and send me copies of the photo shoot, please. Right after.
Scott, do you have more questions?
I'm pretty much out of questions now.
You're out of questions.
Yeah.
So, Guy, would you like to like guest co-host sometime? Like,
I would love to. I was all ready for Real Bull James. Let me tell you guys, I did research on the guy. I had all kinds of questions for him. We would have dug
you
deep.
did research too.
Listen, I do research for every single podcast that I do. I'll do a couple hours of reading up on people. I'll write things down and then have questions.
I don't do a few hours.
What's that?
I don't even do a few hours.
No, well, not a few. Couple hours. I mean,
like generic questions.
Just sit in front of my phone and like, okay, you look up some stuff. Like if I'm looking up Bull James, I might look up Bull James controversy, right, or hoax, or like something like mad, right? So try to find out where are people pissed at him, or where is he pissed off, or what happened. You want to know the stories about them, right? Like saying, hey, you were born in Toronto, like that's not that exciting. So yeah, I have a lot of research on him. So if you ever do get him, I'm happy to go co-host, but I'm also happy to co-host it at any point. Something I love to do.
Have you had any controversy?
Me personally? Okay, yes. I'll talk about it, but I will talk about it just because you asked. So here's the worst controversy I had. It was on Twitter. I wrote a tweet. Actually recycled the tweet. I had tweeted this thing 5 times already, but this is about 2 years ago. I tweeted this out. I said, I wrote, coincidentally, girls that get hammered are easier to nail. Okay? Listen, not the best joke. It's a pun, right? Hammer, nail. That's the joke. Well, some girl that had been following me, some girl who had been following me for years, put out this, she blocks me, but then puts out a tweet blasting me saying that I am talking about rape, and this is rape culture, and this is where it comes from, and it's my fault. And so this big, so now people are attacking me for this tweet, and I'm like, no. Look, first of all, yes, I made a mistake. I could, if I just said, coincidentally, people that get hammered are easier to nail, would I have gotten the same shit? I don't think so. Like, if you think about it, it's true. Alcohol lowers your inhibitions. What did I say? I didn't say go rape somebody. I would never. I'm very anti. I consider myself a feminist. I'm very pro women and pro their rights. I think about this stuff a lot. Yes, was my wording maybe wrong? But yes. But instead, she went and accused me and blew my shit up and tried to say that I was, I'm rape culture and I'm the reason for this and all that good stuff. So that was the one controversy. So what I did was I actually there's a Tumblr. That's the only time I've ever written a Tumblr, but I wrote a little blog explaining my side of the story. And, within a couple of days that passed. I'm pretty sure I'm still blocked by this person, but whatever.
I've said some pretty offensive stuff too that people haven't found funny at all.
Yeah, like what?
Back on it, I don't even think it was funny.
Yeah. Well, that's the problem with Twitter. Sometimes you have to go back and go, ooh, did I really say that? And then
I wrote
delete
it on Facebook sometimes though.
Yeah. Like what? What's your most? Can you think of something controversial that you wrote?
I think I made a joke I can't date a guy who has ugly girlfriends. People didn't like that.
Really? See, yeah. People get offended at this stupid stuff.
I mean, it's not like I base who I date on what their friends look like. Why would you get offended by that? I don't even think it was that funny though. Looking back on it, I was 20 when I wrote it, and now I try so hard to not be offensive on social media.
Yeah. I don't try.
I used to like, if anyone wrote anything like mean about me, I used to just like tell them to shut the fuck up. And now like I'm nice and I block them instead.
You know what's better? Well, unless it's on Facebook, it's fine to block, but on Twitter, just mute them so that way you don't lose them as a follower too.
Oh yeah, that's true.
That's the
I
way
like
to
follow
go.
everyone on Twitter. But like,
Scott, are you on
sometimes
Twitter?
they can DM you.
Yes.
What's your handle?
At WillPhilNO1.
Okay. You guys don't plug your Twitter on your show, Sarah? I know you have a Twitter. It's your name, though, right?
Yeah, it's just Sarah Russo.
And it's really crazy that you're not verified yet. So if anybody from Twitter, I mean, is listening, you should be verified.
Right?
Yeah, I can't believe it myself.
Give me like a reason why I'm not verified.
Yeah. I mean, they gave me a reason. They told me I just wasn't important enough. That's fine. I don't care. But you know, you gotta go. You have.
They actually.
Yeah, they're like, we're not verifying people like you at this time. What does that mean? Jews? Like, I'm not really sure what that means, but yeah. But needless to say, I'm not.
You have to show me the screenshot of the email you got.
It was something like that. Fine, I might be exaggerating it a bit, but it really felt personal. Like, it was like, fuck you, guy. You're never getting verified. And so I cried myself to sleep that night, and everything's fine now, though.
It said on my email, not at this time.
Okay. Well, see, they're telling you to try again. I swear they did not say not at this time to me. They were like, no. Like, it was like what I got was an email with a picture of a person looking at my application and laughing. What is this? Why is she laughing at my application? Yeah.
Well, they basically told me, like, keep trying, bitch.
Well, then you got to keep trying. Bitch. No. I would never.
Who would you like us to interview? Like, if we would have you back as a guest co-host.
Here's the thing. I like talking to everybody. Everybody has something. You just have to dig it out of them. You got to find out what it is, and sometimes you do, and sometimes you don't. But that's kind of the adventure of a podcast, right? Is seeing if you can get, like, you might read something about something and go, "Oh, this is huge. I'm going to make a big deal about this," and then you bring it up. They're like, "Yep, that's nothing." But then you say like, "Oh, you have a scratch right there," and they're like, "Oh, yeah, I'm a heroin addict." Like, you never know what's gonna trigger somebody. So I like interviewing everybody and anybody, and so whoever you get as a guest, I'm down.
So I don't even have to like get a famous person. I could just like interview some random guy and like it'll be good.
I mean, you can, absolutely. It helps if there is something like online about them so you can get some kind of research. But yeah, anybody can be good if you're asking the right questions.
How did we do on a scale of 1 to 10 with asking you questions?
I think you could have had more questions for me, so I don't know if I'm going to scale it, but I think, on the sheer number of questions, I think you guys could have had more, but the questions themselves were good.
You know what's one question that people keep asking me over and over when they interview me? They ask me, what made you start modeling? I hate answering that question.
You're like, my body and my face, maybe? Or, like, how do you answer that question?
I just say, like, I wanted to do it since I was, like, 12.
Yeah. But that does beg a good question, though. How did you actually start? What was the first thing that you did to make it happen? You had to have fought for it. You had to work for it. And I'm sure nobody just came up and said, oh, you're a model.
I explained to them, my mom bought me my first photo shoot when I was, like, 18.
Oh,
of course, it wasn't, like, a lingerie shoot. It was, like, dresses and stuff.
Mm.
I was, like, still in high school at the time.
And you said, this is for me.
Well, I said that when I was, like, 12.
Yeah, but when you actually got to experience it, it had to have been like, because if not, when you actually did it at 18, if it wasn't for you, you'd been like, oh, I thought I really liked this, but I guess it was just like a childhood thing. But no, you went, this feels right.
Well, it's just like if like a friend takes your photo, except it's like more professional.
Right. Okay. Would you go beyond Playboy? Would you do a Penthouse? Would you do a Hustler?
I don't know. My friend, he does naked sushi with models, and he told me that he's looking to do an article with Penthouse soon, and I'm waiting to hear back from him about all the details. Like, I know you have to be nude in it, but it's like
But you're covered with sushi rolls?
No, like.
Oh, it's not that.
Good show. I'm waiting to hear back from him, like, with all the details. I know, like, travel expenses aren't included in it, and it's going to be out in Vegas. You live in LA,
Okay.
right?
Yep. Well,
I haven't been yet.
Oh, really?
You lived there your whole
You're
life?
missing out. No, I grew up in New Jersey, and I moved here in 2001. And I never left, kind of.
I'm in New York City all the time.
Yeah, I love New York. New York and Boston are my two favorite cities in the entire world. So,
I'm from Boston. That's where I live.
yeah, I mean, you know, as a Yankee fan, I don't love Boston. But as a city, Boston is the best walking city in the entire United States. It has the best history. And other than New York, probably the best food.
Where can people find you on Twitter?
I'm at the guy DF, decently funny, or down fuck. Not down too fuck, but get down fuck. Down fuck. Dumb fuck. The guy dumb fuck. DF on Twitter. And on Instagram.
Do you have any other social media accounts?
I do. Well, I mean, the one I had for a while, I had an account called 100 Stains, at 100 Stains on Twitter. You can still see it. So the concept is that I am a klutz and I spill stuff on myself all the time. And so January 1st, 2015 or 16, one of the two, I said to myself, you know what? I'm going to.
Background there.
I think that's Scott.
What?
There is something in the background.
I thought you were talking to somebody, like you were asking a question to somebody.
No. I was saying that. So essentially, the whole idea behind 100 Stains is that I spill on myself so much. Every time I would spill on myself, I would just take a picture and I would post it on there. I'm like, over the course of a year, I'll probably spill on myself 100 times. Like, I am that messy. And so if you look, there are 100 stains. It was either the 30th or the 31st. I walked out of a restaurant and I looked down. I think it was this sweatshirt, as a matter of fact. I looked down and there was like a stain. And I'm like, oh, there it is. Took a picture of my sweatshirt, posted my 100th stain. And now that lives in infamy on Instagram, at 100 Stains. I encourage you to check it out.
Slob.
And you can find me also at Failing Up on Facebook. I mean, on Twitter and Facebook. At Failing Up Pod on Twitter, but Failing Up on Facebook, iTunes, SoundCloud, all that good stuff.
Scott, you want to close us out?
Yes. Anyway, thank you for coming to our show. It was really an honor to have you on, and if you would ever like to come back again, please do.
Cool. I appreciate you guys having me.
Co-host.
Yeah, let's do it. Sounds fun. Thanks again, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 I'm gonna end this now.
Hello, Brands members and airheads. You can watch me every weekend on the Weekend Freak Show, only on Vince Russo's YouTube, because there isn't anybody out there quite like this Chantal Air is there.